So there's this group of kids in my neighborhood. It's a kid named Savvy. And I knew this kid when he was about 15 years old. I'd always see him at the trap houses. He was always selling crack. And I didn't do crack, so I didn't have a lot of interaction with him. I forget how we linked up. I don't remember, but we ended up linking up one day, and he was a very ambitious young crack dealer. If somebody wanted crack and it was 3 in the morning, he would be there. You'd see him, he'd be wearing the same clothes for 5 days, just getting money. Always on the phone, always had a quota, because I would hear him and I would listen to his conversations, and I would hear his dude calling him saying, "Hey, how much you got left?" And he'd say, "Oh, I've got 2 busies left," which is 2 balls. And and so I knew that he was kind of on a shift. He had a certain amount of work, he had to get rid of it, and when he had gotten rid of it, then he would be done, and then he would re-up. So this guy Savvy, very young little entrepreneur. I liked him. I liked the way he moved, because I was in active addiction, and he moved kind of the way that I wanted to move if I was moving in a legal way. Just the way he did things. When he saw something, he went and got it. When he saw an opportunity, he just did it. He didn't ask questions. He just did it, and I liked that about him. So I saw him, and we're talking, and I said, "Dude," I said, "me and my friends," I said, "do you know how much money we spend on fentanyl?" I said, "We spend so much money, dude." I said, "and nobody's giving us good deals." I said, "Why don't you just," I said, "I know you know all these dudes, all you dealers are connected." I said, "Why don't you find some fentanyl?" I said, "We'll just start buying off you. You'll be our dealer." And he's like, all right, just kind of doesn't say yes, doesn't say no. He's just all right. Next day, he calls me. He says, "Hey," he says, "I got something. I want you to try it." I'm like, and me and my girl, Trish, me and Trish are sick. So when he calls and says he has something for us to try, I'm jumping for joy, right? And so he says, "Oh, I also need you to do me a favor." I'm like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever. I was thinking he wanted us to buy him some alcohol because he was 18. So he comes over, and he's got this piece of fentanyl. It's huge, right? And he just breaks me off a chunk, and he's in the front seat, and me and Trish are in the back seat. And I'm like, "Do you mind if I try it?" He's like, yeah. He's like, "I want you to try it. Just tell me how it is." And he's got another buddy in the car named J-Rock. And so we get out our needles, and we start heating it and everything, and I do it. I say, "Dude," I said, "this stuff," I said, "this is really good." And I could tell it wasn't like if I'm grading it, A being the best, D being the worst. It wasn't A, but it was B plus. It was pretty good. And so we start buying from him, and just like I said, me and my friends were going to him, and then we get to the point where I'm just like, "Dude," I said, "I don't like having to call you all the time." I said, "Why don't you just give me some? I'll sell it, whatever, and I'll get the money, and then I'll pay you for it." He's like, "Cool." So I start working for him, right? I was a little hesitant to start, because I had this plan in the back of my head where I felt like I could start working with him, but I was very hesitant because he was all about guns. Him and his friends, they always had guns. They were always playing with them. They were always taking them out, showing them to each other, playing with bullets. They would take their iPhones and make these rap videos with their guns, and you could tell these kids were not afraid to use these guns, and I knew they were using the guns, actually. So as I started diving deeper into him and being around his circle of friends, I noticed these kids are crazy, and they all have guns. Not little guns, I'm saying big gigantic guns, and these kids weigh 100 pounds, so the guns are as big as them. And I'm watching the news at nighttime, and I'm hearing about all these shootings And I'm like, dude, I know these shootings are coming from these kids. It's got to be. Who else is stupid enough to just go and shoot people in broad daylight, right? So I never had any like proof, and I didn't know, but I knew, you know, because the certain group of kids had just sort of like just started coming around this area, and then that's the area that the shootings were happening in, and so I knew that it was this group of kids, and I was kind of scared, man. It's the young kids you got to worry about. Those are the kids that just don't care. The older people, they kind of know what's up. Like, they've been to jail. They you know, they got some wisdom. These young kids, they see these rap videos and these rappers talking about getting guns and shooting, and they just want to shoot people. And they don't care. It doesn't bother them, because that's the culture nowadays with the young kids. So I'm starting to hang out with Savvy and J-Rock more and more. And I've got a pretty bad habit, right? So Savvy gives me some stuff, and I'm supposed to pay him whatever the amount was. I want to say it was like $400. So I owe him $400, and I end up spending it and not having his money. And so he's looking for me. He wants his money, and I don't have it. And I'm worried. I'm like, dude, this kid's gonna shoot me over $300 for sure. He's definitely gonna shoot me. Anyways, I ended up bumping into him at the gas station, and I had like $120 on me, and I'm like, all right. He didn't see me, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna take this 120, just go up to him, just give him what I have right now, just so I don't have to look over my shoulder. So I go up to him, and he's surprised to see me, and he's in the car. He's got his gun right on his lap, and I said, hey, dude, I said, I saw you. I said, I got 120. I said, can I just give you this right now? He's like, oh, I've been looking for you. Grabs his gun. I'm like, dude, are you gonna shoot me? He's like, nah, I ain't gonna shoot you. He's like, but I want to talk to you. He's like, let's go back here and behind these buildings. I said, I am not going behind a building with you with your gun. I said, I'm not doing it. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I'll have my friend hold my gun. We can go over here and talk. I'm like, okay, if you give your gun to your friend. So he gives the gun to his friend, and we go behind a building, and we're talking and stuff, and I'm just trying to make up excuses. Anyways, I don't remember really what happened with that, but I remember us not doing business anymore. But his friend J-Rock, I continue to see J-Rock around town, and every time, oh no, what was it? No, so he wouldn't give me stuff anymore, and he wouldn't work with me, but he would still let me buy from him. That's what it was. And so every time that I would go and buy stuff from Savvy and J-Rock, I'd go up and I'm like, yo, what's up, guys? And they always had these like I can't even make the face, but just like this like dark energy over them, right? And every time I'd be around them, I got like this murderous vibe. I'm like, dude, something just doesn't feel right. I feel like these kids are like killing people. Like, that's like when you got around them, that was the energy that you felt. You just felt like, it's hard to, like, this overwhelming sense of evil. You could feel murder coming off of them, if that makes any sense. I could feel murder coming off of them. And I remember just feeling like these kids are so dangerous. And shootings were happening a lot. This was summertime. And summertime in Maine, that's when everybody comes out. So what ends up happening is I end up going to jail. And when I go to jail, Savvy and J-Rock are both in there. Not on murder charges or anything. They're there for, like, I think Savvy was there for a gun charge, like he got caught with a gun. And then J-Rock was there for a fight. Oh, no. J-Rock had a gun charge too. Yeah. So J-Rock had a gun charge and then also assault. But since he was young, since he was like 18 years old, they only gave him 9 months and they gave him probation. So he's in there doing a 9-month stay. And we end up becoming cellmates, me and J-Rock. So as we're cellmates, and J-Rock is also a rapper, so he's always rapping. Oh, he's got a tattoo like Lil Wayne on his face. He's got a cross, and he's always just rapping and acting like he's black. Uses the N-word, but he's a cool kid, just very lost. He had went into the youth center, I want to say when he was like 9 years old, and got released when he was 18. So when he picked up that gun charge, he had only been out for, I want to say, about 6 months. So this kid's whole life he'd been in the youth center is a youth facility, but it's locked up. Like, there's no, like, you can't mingle with girls, you can't go outside, like, you're in a cell. It's just basically a juvenile prison. So I'm cellmates with him, and he's telling me, like, yeah, I was in there since I was 10. And I'm like, so you've spent your whole life in there? Like, you've never went to high school, you've never driven a car? Like, and he's like, nah. And I'm just like, man, I really felt bad for the kid. Like, he didn't have a mom, didn't have a dad, or if he did have mom and dad, they weren't there for him. Like, there was something going on. Oh, his dad, he knew his dad. His dad was in New Hampshire somewhere, and his mom, I think his mom was strung out or something. I don't remember exactly, but they weren't active in his life. And I'm a Christian, and so I would try to, like, read the Bible with him and try to do Bible studies with him. And he believed in Jesus, like, for sure. He would read with me, but he was more into the rap lifestyle and the rap culture and guns. Guns were his, like, big thing. He was always talking about guns and shooting. And so, you know, we start talking more, and he never admits to me, but he tells me that he was questioned in a murder in New Hampshire, and that the police didn't have any evidence on him, that he was a suspect. And he had written a whole rap song about him being a suspect and them not being able to find a murder weapon, and them not knowing who the shooter was. And he didn't admit to it in his rap song, but he kind of admitted to it. Like, I think the song said something like, popped in the head. I don't know. It was like half admitting it, like half not. But kind of, I mean, he never admitted it to me, but, like, kind of, you know, kind of admitted it to me without actually saying it. So we're cellmates, and he's doing the 9 months. At the time, he had already been in for, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. So he's getting ready to get out. And in the county jail, they give you quite a bit of good time. So he's getting ready to get out in a few months. I want to say, I don't know, 3 months or so, right? So he's getting ready to get out, and I forget where I'd been transferred to a different area of the jail. So I'm in a different area of the jail, and somebody comes up to me one day. This is like 3 months later, like around the time that he was about to get released. And they said, hey, did you hear about what happened to J-Rock? I'm like, oh, that's my old cellmate. I said, no. I said, what happened? I said, he was supposed to get out yesterday. They're like, yeah, he got out. I said, he did? They're like, yeah, he got out. And then when he got out, the police from New Hampshire picked him up for a murder, and they brought him to New Hampshire. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, so they had questioned him as a suspect, I guess didn't have any evidence, but then when he was in jail, all that time was going by, they were collecting more evidence, and they ended up picking him up for murder at the end of his 9 month for the gun charge. They picked him up at the county jail, brought him back to Massachusetts, and he ended up pleading guilty to the murder. And I want to say, I think the judge was lenient on him because he was 18. I think he got 20 years, maybe 20 or 30 years, but with good time and stuff. You can, for a murder charge like that, you can be out in, like, if he got 20, he could be out in 10. Yeah. So that is the story of J-Rock and the Gun Kids.